शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम्। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय। नमो रमना to everyone.
एकम् अक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम्। हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् ज्ञानमहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तभावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः। ओहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मा सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। नमो नमः।
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Upadeshasaram by Uma Shripati and Srimati Ashwini Balan.
नमो रमण। कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलं कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडम् कृतिमहोदधौ पतनकारणम् फलमशाश्वतम् गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितम् नेच्छया कृतम् चित्तशोधकम् मुक्तिसाधकम् कायवाङ्मना कार्यमुत्तमम् पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगत ईषदी युक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृद्देव पूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमन्दत चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया स्रोतसा समम् सरलचिन्तनम् विरलतः परम् वेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ भावनाभिदा पावनी मत भावशून्य सद्भावसुस्थिति भावना बलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृत्स्थले मना स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितम्। नमो रमण।
Namo Ramana. We will have a presentation of Ramananjali music by Srimati Radha with Vallabh. That will be followed by a song by Savitri Krishnan and Jai Shri Ram Krishnan. That will be followed by a song by revathi.
Namo Ramana to all. Today we will be presenting a song by Sri Sadhuvam Swami. The music is by Srimati Sulochana Nataraja. Taraka nama Ramana namo namo. Taraka nama Ramana namo namo. Sharanam Sharanam Sadgurunadam Sharanam Sharanam Sadgurunadam Taraka nama Ramana namo namo Sharanam Sharanam Sadgurunadam Sakalarum Paniyum Pada namo namo Sakalarum Paniyum Pada namo namo Bhagavane Ramana namo namo Bhagavane Parulavum Paranjoti namo namo Parulavum Paranjoti namo namo Paramasanta Sukhavasa namo namo Paramasanta Sukhavasa namo namo Balamona Tavaraja namo namo Balamona Tavaraja namo namo Bhagavane Ramana namo namo Taraka nama Ramana namo namo Sharanam Sharanam Sadgurunadam Aranam Paravum Pada namo namo Aranam Paravum Pada namo namo Akilam Bootum Marupoda namo namo Akilam Bootum Marupoda namo namo Annai Sakti Sivanada namo namo Annai Sakti Sivanada namo namo Arunesha Ramana namo namo Taraka nama Ramana namo namo Sharanam Sharanam Sadgurunadam Dhira Veera Jaya Deva namo namo Dhira Veera Jaya Deva namo namo Desulavum Siva Veda namo namo Desulavum Siva Veda namo दीनभक्त परिपाला नमो नमो दीनभक्त परिपाला नमो नमो जगदीशा रमणा नमो नमो तारक नामा रमणा नमो नमो शरणं शरणं सद्गुरुनाथ भगवाने रमणा नमो नमो अरुणेश रमणा नमो नमो जगदीश रमणा नमो नमो भगवाने रमणा नमो नमो भगवाने रमणा नमो 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 रमण
ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮಸತ್ವವನೇ ಕಾಣುವರು ಶಿವರನು ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೋಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಆತ್ಮತತ್ವವನೇ ಕಾಣುವರು ಶಿವರನು ಆತ್ಮಬಲದ ಹಿರಿಸತ್ವದಿಂದಲೇ ಆತ್ಮಬಲದ ಹಿರಿಸತ್ವದಿಂದಲೇ ವಿಶ್ವವ ಗೆಲಿದವನು ರಮಣ ವಿಶ್ವವ ಗೆಲಿದವನು ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಶರಣಾದವರನು ಕಾಯುವ ಕೋಟೆಯು ಅವನ ಪಾದದ್ವಯವು ಶರಣಾದವರನು ಕಾಯುವ ಕೋಟೆಯು ಅವನ ಪಾದದ್ವಯವು ಆ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದದ ನೆರಳೇ ನಮ್ಮನು ಆ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದದ ನೆರಳೇ ನಮ್ಮನು ಸಲಹುವ ಆಸರೆಯು ರಮಣ ಸಲಹುವ ಆಸರೆಯು ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ ಆ ಗುರುವಿನ ಕರುಣೆಗೆ ಸಮ ಉಂಟೆ ರಮಣಗಿಂತಲೂ ಗುರು ಉಂಟೆ
ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀ ರಮಣಾಯ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We are meditating on the 19th verse of Ramana Suprabhatam. This is composed by Sri Shantananda Puri Swami. Leela Grihita Naraveshatanum Bhavantam Shonadrinata Mahasa Priyavatsa Bhutam Vetum Hi Vatsavataya Kativa Samarthaha Shishonashailabhavatam Bhagavam Tava Suprabhatam Leela Grihita Naraveshatanum Bhavantam Shonadrinatha Mahasa Priyavatsa Bhutam Vetum Hi Vatsavataya Kativa Samarthaha श्रीशोणशैलभगवं तव सुप्रभातम्. Good morning, O Bhagavan of Arunachala. How many are capable of understanding your reality? You have assumed a human body by sport. You have become the favorite child of the effulgent Lord of Arunachala. Bhagavan Ramana's coming to the earth has brought happiness to all our lives. He is a child of Arunachala who has been visited by the learned, the poor, rich, children, elderly ones, ladies who were in distress, animals, birds, and many more. I present to you a song written by Satsangh Swami, Kannada translation by R.N. Jayagopal, music by Vijay Bhaskar. ಏನು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಎಂಥ ಪವಾಡ ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆದುರು ನಿಂತನು ನೋಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ರೂಪ ದಿವ್ಯ ದೀಪ ಬಂದಿಹ ನೋಡ ಏನು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಎಂಥ ಪವಾಡ ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆದುರು ನಿಂತನು ನೋಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ರೂಪ ದಿವ್ಯ ದೀಪ ಬಂದಿಹ ನೋಡ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ವಿಷ್ಣು ಅರಿಯಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವನಾರೆಂದು ಭೂಮಿಗಿಳಿದ ಮನುಜರನ್ನು ಕಾಯಲು ಎಂದು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ವಿಷ್ಣು ಅರಿಯಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವನಾರೆಂದು ಭೂಮಿಗಿಳಿದ ಮನುಜರನ್ನು ಕಾಯಲು ಎಂದು ಏನು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಎಂಥ ಪವಾಡ ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆದುರು ನಿಂತನು ನೋಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ರೂಪ ದಿವ್ಯ ದೀಪ ಬಂದಿಹ ನೋಡ ಭೂಮಿ ಪುಣ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿತೇನು ಅವತರಿಸಲು ಅವನು ಭಕ್ತ ಜನರುಗೈದ ಕಾರಣವೇನು ಭೂಮಿ ಪುಣ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿತೇನು ಅವತರಿಸಲು ಅವನು ಭಕ್ತ ಜನರುಗೈದ ತಪವೇ ಕಾರಣವೇನು ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಓದಿ ತೃಪ್ತಿ ಸಿಗದ ಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಾಗಿ ಬಂದನು ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಓದಿ ತೃಪ್ತಿ ಸಿಗದ ಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಾಗಿ ಬಂದನು ದೀನರಲ್ಲಿ ಕರುಣೆ ತೋರಿ ದರ್ಶನವ ತಂದನು ಏನು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಎಂಥ ಪವಾಡ ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆದುರು ನಿಂತನು ನೋಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ರೂಪ ದಿವ್ಯ ದೀಪ ಬಂದಿಹ ನೋಡ ಯುಗಕ್ಕೆ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಕಲ್ಪಕ್ಕೊಮ್ಮೆ ಇಂಥ ದಿವ್ಯ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಮನುಜ ರೂಪ ತಾಳುತ್ತಾ ಇಳಿಯಬಹುದು ಧರೆಗೆ ಯುಗಕ್ಕೆ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಕಲ್ಪಕ್ಕೊಮ್ಮೆ ಇಂಥ ದಿವ್ಯ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಮನುಜ ರೂಪ ತಾಳುತ್ತಾ ಇಳಿಯಬಹುದು ಧರೆಗೆ ಎದುರು ನೋಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಯಾರು ಇವನು ಬರುವನೆಂದು ಎದುರು ನೋಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಯಾರು ಇವನು ಬರುವನೆಂದು ಆದರೂ ಬಂದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವ ಉದ್ಧಾರಕ್ಕೆಂದು ಏನು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಎಂಥ ಪವಾಡ ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆದುರು ನಿಂತನು ನೋಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ರೂಪ ದಿವ್ಯ ದೀಪ ಬಂದಿಹ ನೋಡ ಏನು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಎಂಥ ಪವಾಡ ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆದುರು ನಿಂತನು ನೋಡ ಶಾಂತಿ ರೂಪ ದಿವ್ಯ ದೀಪ ಬಂದಿಹ ನೋಡ. We will now have reading and sharing of the book Forever is in the Now by Sri Nandakumar.
Hello Ramana. In this the book reading segment of our Satsangh, we have the privilege of reading from Forever is in the Now, the timeless message of Sri Ramana Maharshi, edited and compiled by our founder president Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We have been reading some wonderful accounts by great disciples, great sadhakas, great siddhas too. And now we are going to read from Satsangh Swamigal, whose introduction is given like this in this book. Satsangh Swamigal is the author of The Path of Sri Ramana Parts 1 and 2, exceptional lyricist who has composed hundreds of songs on Ramana, an authority on Ramana's teachings. He has written commentaries on Ulladu Narpadu, Upadesha Undiyar, and Guruvachakakkovai. We begin today's reading. The article from Sadhuvam Swamigal is entitled Sadhana and Work. Sadhana and Work, Sadhuvam Swamigal. The charge made against humanity is that throughout their life, all people attend only to the second and third persons. The objects such as you, he, she, it, this, that, and so on, and they never turn their attention towards the first person, the subject I, in order to find out who am I. From the moment of waking till the moment of going to sleep, from birth till death, from creation till dissolution, all people, indeed all living beings, pay attention only to the second and third persons. And what is the net result of such attention? Untold heaps of misery. Knowing that all misery arises only as a result of the fundamental error, the original sin of attending to the second and third persons, instead of attending to and knowing the true nature of the first person, Bhagavan Sri Ramana graciously appeared on earth to advise humanity. Throughout the waking and dream states, you attend only to second and third persons, and in consequence, you experience endless misery. But in sleep, when you do not attend to any second or third person, you do not experience any misery. Overlooking the peaceful happiness that you experienced while asleep, you search for happiness in the waking state by attending to innumerable external objects. However, does not the fact that you experienced happiness during sleep in the absence of those objects indicate that happiness lies not in the objects but in you, the first person or the subject? Therefore, why not you try, even in the waking state, to attend not to the second and third persons, but to the first person, I. Being the perfect spiritual doctor that he is, Sri Bhagavan had diagnosed the exact cause of our sufferings and has prescribed the only perfect course of treatment, namely taking the medicine of self-attention and observing the diet restriction of abstaining from attending to the second and third persons. A bit of humor from the author, how a doctor would prescribe both a drug to cure the illness as well as preventive diet to support the drug working and prevent some new difficulties coming on. How he has put it, the medicine is self-attention and the diet restriction is abstaining from attending to second and third persons. Those of us who pay heed to this advice of Sri Bhagavan and who therefore desire to follow the course of treatment prescribed by him are called mumukshus or aspirants for liberation. In order to qualify as an aspirant, one must have the absolute conviction that happiness, the sole aim of all living beings, can be obtained not from external objects, but only from one's own inmost self. When one has this qualification, an intense yearning will arise in one's heart to try to attain to and know the self. Indeed, for a true aspirant, the desire and effort to know the self will become the most important part of his life, and all other things will be regarded as being only of secondary importance. When such an intense yearning arises in one, success is assured, for where there is a will, there is a way. On hearing this, however, some devotees wonder whether it is necessary to then withdraw from all activities in order to be able to practice self-attention. If we are to follow this sadhana of self-attention in all earnestness, will not work prove to be an obstacle. But if we give up all work, how are we to provide for food, clothing and shelter required by the body? They ask. However, whenever devotees ask Sri Bhagavan such questions, he used to reply that work need not be a hindrance to spiritual practice, that is sadhana. This does not mean, of course, that an aspirant should work in the same spirit as a worldly man, or that he should work with the same aim in view. The spirit in which and the aim with which an aspirant should work in this world can be illustrated by the following example. This is a very famous example given by Sadhuvam Swamigal. I'll try to go through it slowly. Suppose a businessman rents a shop in the heart of a big city for ₹1,000 a month. If from this business he aims to make only sufficient money to pay the rent for the shop, will it be a worthless business? Will it not be a worthless business? Should not his aim in renting the shop be to earn a profit of 10,000 rupees a month? On the other hand, if he does not make sufficient money even to pay the rent, will he be able to remain in the shop to earn his profit? So the example goes like this, that if you are hiring a shop in the center of the town to make a business and 1,000 rupees is the rent, will you have the aim of earning just to pay the rent? Will you not aim to earn rupees 10,000 profit? And if you don't even earn to pay the rent, can you remain in business? Obviously not. So if you don't even have enough wherewithal for food, clothing and shelter, the needs of the body, then the life force may not be able to be interested or do sadhana, is what Sadhuvam Swamigal is pointing out. Our body is like the shop rented by the businessman. The aim with which we rent this body is to realize the self. While the rent we have to pay for the body is food, clothing and shelter. In order to pay this rent, it is necessary for us to work, using mind, speech and body as our instruments. If we do not pay the rent, we cannot live in the body and earn the great profit of self-knowledge. However, we should not spend our whole life, all our effort and time in working to pay the rent. The mind, speech and body should work only for that amount of time and with that amount of effort which is required for paying the rent, for providing the food, clothing and shelter necessary for the body. If instead we devote all our time and effort towards accumulating comforts and conveniences for the body as worldly people do, we would be just like the worthless businessman who works only to pay the rent and who never tries to make any profit. Therefore, a sincere aspirant should arrange his work in such a way that he will spend only a portion of his time and energy for maintaining the body, so that he can utilize the remaining time and energy in striving to earn the great profit of self-knowledge. So that is one approach where consciousness is directly given the responsibility for sadhana. If you feel that the body's upkeep is essential, then you allot that much amount of effort and work necessary for upkeep of that and devote all the rest of the time to sadhana. There is another approach given by Sadhuvam Swamigal here in the following words using prarabdha. For some aspirants, prarabdha will be arranged by God or Guru in such a way that they will need to do little or no work to maintain their body. Whereas for other aspirants, it may be arranged in such a way that they have to spend most of their time in working for the maintenance of the body. But in whatever way prarabdha is arranged, it is arranged only for the aspirant's own good. So this is another way in which one can take one's work. I'll start reading this again. For some aspirants, prarabdha will be arranged by God or Guru in such a way that they will need to do little or no work to maintain their body. Whereas for other aspirants, it may be arranged in such a way that they have to spend most of their time in working for the maintenance of the body. But in whatever way the prarabdha is arranged, it is arranged only for the aspirant's own good. Moreover, since prarabdha determines only the outward activities of the body and mind, it can in no way obstruct the inward desire and yearning for self-knowledge. If one has intense yearning for self-knowledge, the Guru's grace will certainly help one in all ways, both from within and without, to enable one to attend to the self. Some people complain, however, that throughout their life they are forced to be engaged in so many activities that they have no time to practice self-attention. But even in the midst of so many other important activities, do we not find time to eat, take bath, answer the calls of nature, sleep, and so on? Similarly, in the midst of all the other activities, an earnest aspirant will find at least a few minutes each day to practice self-attention. In the beginning, if possible, at least 10 minutes should be devoted morning and evening to practice self-attention. Such regular daily practice is recommended by Sri Bhagavan in verse 44 of Sri Arunachala Aksharamanamali, the bridal garland of letters, in which he sings, turning selfwards, daily see thyself with an introverted look, and it, the reality, will be known. Thus didst thou tell me, O my Arunachala, Tirumbi Ahamtane Dinamaha Kankan Teriyum Endranayan Arunachala. Daily do the sadhana, and many people who write commentary on Aksharamanamali, Tirumbi Ahamtane, Dinam means not only daily but continuously, they say, which eventually happens when we start the daily practice that Sadhuvan Swamigal is telling here. Daily, at least allot 10 minutes in the morning and evening, he says. This is for earning the super profits, not merely for maintaining the body. If such regular practice is allowed to go on for some time, self-attention will become more and more familiar, and one will then find that it is possible to divert one's attention from the second and third persons to the first person, even in the midst of one's daily activities, whenever a few moments of leisure occur between end of one activity and beginning of the next one. I'll read that again. When we start regular practice, what happens in our day-to-day life, how self-inquiry starts creeping in and taking hold of us. Sadhuvam Swamigal, the master, is telling us, if such regular practice is allowed to go on for some time, self-attention will become more and more familiar, and one will then find that it is possible to divert one's attention from the second and third persons to the first person, even in the midst of one's daily activities, whenever a few moments of leisure occur between the end of one activity and the beginning of the next one. If one thus tries to turn one's attention towards the first person, whenever one has a few moments of leisure, by the end of the day, a great deal of time will have been devoted to self-attention, though intermittently. Such intermittent self-attention will in turn be found to be of great help to one when one sits for practice at the prescribed time, 10 minutes to half an hour each morning and evening, when no outside hindrance will be there to obstruct one's practice. So the intermittent self-inquiry that happens during the day is going to add fire to the regular practice. The regular practice will slowly introduce the intermittent practice at the end of one work and beginning of another. The intermittent practice which has started going during the day, that will deepen the daily practice sessions. At first, one may not be able to maintain unbroken self-attention even for a few minutes. Due to long habit, it is only natural that the mind will start to think of some second or third person objects. Each time the attention turns outwards, the aspirant again tries to turn it back towards the first person. This process of slackening of self-attention and then trying to regain it will repeat itself again and again. If the aspirant's mind is weak due to deficiency in the love to know the self, the slackening of self-attention will happen frequently, in which case a struggle will ensue and the mind will become tired. Instead of thus repeatedly struggling to regain self-attention, one should relax the mind for a while as soon as the initial attempt to fix the attention on the first person becomes unsteady, and then again make a fresh attempt. If one thus makes intermittent attempts, each attempt will be found to have fresh force and more precise clarity of attention. I'll read this beautiful suggestion once again. Very practical uh, suggestion to the sadhakas. Sadhuam Swamigal is giving how to relax at the right time, bring in the power of tapas, and then continue. I'll read that paragraph. At first, one may not be able to maintain unbroken self attention even for a few minutes. Due to long habit, it is only natural that the mind will start to think of some second or third person objects. Each time the attention turns outwards, the aspirant again tries to turn it back towards the first person. This process of slackening of self-attention and then trying to regain it will repeat itself again and again. The mind will go to some second or third person. Again, we will have to withdraw the attention from that and fix it in who am I. If the aspirant's mind is weak due to deficiency in love to know the self, the slackening of self-attention will happen frequently, in which case a struggle will ensue and the mind will soon become tired. Instead of thus repeatedly struggling to gain self-attention, one should relax the mind for a while. As soon as the initial attempt to fix the attention on the first person becomes unsteady, and then again make a fresh attempt. If one thus makes intermittent attempts, each attempt will be found to have a fresh force and a more precise clarity of attention. If one presses one's thumb on a pressure scale, the dial may at first indicate a pressure of 10 kilograms. But if one tries to maintain that pressure for a long period of time, the dial will show that it is gradually slackening and decreasing. But on the other hand, if one releases the pressure and after a brief rest presses again with fresh vigor, the dial will show a little more than 10 kilograms. Similar is the case with self-attention. If one struggles for a long time to maintain self-attention, the intensity and clarity of one's attention will gradually slacken and decrease. But if instead one relaxes as soon as one finds one's self-attention is slackening, and if after a brief rest one makes a fresh attempt, it will have great intensity and clarity. Therefore, what is important is not so much the length of time one spends trying to attend to the self, but the earnestness and the intensity with which one makes each fresh attempt. Such wonderful suggestions are going to continue from Sadhu Swamigal. We will continue reading in the coming week. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have self-inquiry session, which will be guided by Shri Sir, who will also be talking about self-inquiry and then giving us guidance about self-inquiry.
Namo Ramana. Dhyayendra sundaramukam tamraravindekshana bhaktabhishtabara bhayapradakaram Kaupinamatrujvalam Svatmanandarasanubhuti divasham Sarvanavadyangakam श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणेश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणेश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षातात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्. We will commence today's Atma Vichara by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. I'll be reading from the book Guru Vachaka Kovai from the chapter Investigation into the Truth, and for the evening, Bhagavan has blessed us from the topic Atma Vichara, verse 393. Those who have entered the excellent, straight and direct path, the Gnana Vichara, who am I, never get confused and lose their way. The reason is, this path is straight and direct, like the light of the sun. It will reveal its straightness to those who have embarked upon it. I repeat the verse. Those who have entered the excellent, straight and direct path, the Gnana Vichara, who am I, never get confused and lose their way. The reason is, this path is straight and direct like the light of the sun. It will reveal its straightness to those who have embarked upon it. In this verse, Bhagavan is saying very clearly that the Atma Vichara is the direct path to the truth, to take us to the reality that we are. Because this very questioner, when we put this question, who am I, the questioner is absorbed in the answer. It is not that the questioner finds an answer. The questioner himself is absorbed in the answer, and therefore the answer becomes very vivid and clear. And therefore it is like the light of the sun, says Bhagavan. It will take us to the source. And therefore this Gnana Vichara is the excellent, straight and direct path, says Bhagavan. And it will reveal to its straightness to those who have embarked on it, says here, Bhagavan here. Because though initially it may not be clear, actually every time we inquire, who am I, the questioner is absorbed in the answer. But we may not recognize it because it's been a long-standing habit to look for as Sadhu Swami says, a second or a third person or something like an object. So we obviously look for an answer, and therefore the initial absorption of the questioner in the answer may not be clear. But with repeated practice, it becomes very, very clear that the questioner is absorbed in the answer, and actually the answer alone is. And Therefore, this Atma Vichara, who am I, is the most direct path, says Bhagavan here, and it will be known by consistent practice. So, with the immense grace of Bhagavan with which we have come to this most direct path, let us do Atma Vichara for the next 10 minutes, in which, if at all there is a thought that rises, we should diligently inquire to whom is this thought, no matter what is the nature of the thought, whether it is good, bad, ugly, spiritual. It doesn't have to be considered, given any prominence. All we need to do is inquire to whom is this thought. Thereupon it becomes clear it is for me, and then subsequently inquire who am I, and the very questioning of this who am I, and Bhagavan says tracing the source of the I, or tracking the I thought to its source, or whatever, what do we refer to as I, when we trace it down, and it is clear that the questioner is absorbed in the answer. And with repeated practice, Bhagavan assures that the mind will gain enough strength to abide at the source itself. The immense grace of Bhagavan, for the next 10 minutes, let us do Atma Vichara. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Thank you all.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Dakshinamurti Stotram by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande.
Oh. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Dakshinaamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Vande Guru Parampara Vande Guru Parampara. Namo Ramana. We are doing Manana on Dakshinamurti Stotram. I request Sapna to kindly chant the Dhyana Shloka and Shloka number 3, please.
Yes, sir. मौनव्याख्या प्रकटितः परब्रह्मतत्त्वं युवानां वर्षिष्ठान्ते वसदृषिगणैः आवृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दमूर्तिं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकमसत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत्साक्षात्करणात् भवेन पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. So the Dhyan Shloka means, I salute Sri Dakshinamurti, the young Guru, who teaches the knowledge of Brahman through silence, who is surrounded by disciples who are themselves rishis and scholars in the Vedas. I worship Sri Dakshinamurti, who is a teacher of teachers, whose hand is held in the sign of knowledge, Chinmudra, whose nature is fullness, who reveals in himself and who is ever silent. Let's do Manana on the words number 3. What is the meaning of that? He whose manifestations are themselves nothing but the reality. He whose manifestations, which are themselves nothing but the reality, appear as the objects of the world. He who imparts to those who have surrendered to him direct enlightenment through the Vedic commandment, thou art that thou art, and after the direct experience of which
There is no more any return to the ocean of worldly existence. To him, the divine teacher, Sri Dakshinamurti, is this prostration. So we'll do a little bit recap of what we did last time. Was when we look around, we see different forms. For example, the cloth. The cloth seems real, but it is just the form. It is not real. The threads are more real. So if you pull apart the threads, the cloth will disappear. Threads would remain. So related to the cloth, threads are real. Relative to the threads, fibers are real. However, fiber is also a form. They are made up of cells. So for example, like if you look at our own lives, what happens? What do we say? We say my mobile or my mother. To say my mobile, we believe we are this body mind ego complex, and we see an object outside and we say, oh, that is a mobile, and I am the subject, and that's an object. But what happens when you're playing, say you have a sprain in your leg and you're walking somewhere and it hurts? Then you say, my body is hurting. Now suddenly what happens, that body which was initially body mind complex, which was initially the subject, the body suddenly becomes an object. So that when you say my body is hurting, that means what? There is some subject which is able to see this object which is hurting. So then the object becomes the body. Now, if you go a little more subtle, then if you have a headache, or if there is something bothering you in your mind, you say, oh, my head is reeling, there are too many thoughts in my mind. My mind, when you say my mind, that means there is a subject which is able to see the object, which is the mind. So that is what is being talked about here. Relative to the threads, fibers are real. So relative to the body, the mobile was real. So, but what? Sorry, related to the mobile, the body was real. But as you keep going inwards, then you realize, oh, there is actually something which I say my. When I say my, then what happens? We actually come to that consciousness. We come to the self. That's what is talking about here. This way, you can let down to the level of molecules, atoms, and particles. The point is, whatever you discover scientifically can be broken down further. From the standpoint of view of reality, whatever form you see appears real but is unreal. We cannot find a real basis. We find all the forms are not real. The reality because of which the form exists is real. This applies to the entire universe. The form cannot exist without the contents. There must be some underlying reality because of which the form exists. Exactly, when we go to a theater, and if the screen is not there, then what happens? The projector, even if it shows the best movie, it cannot be seen. Exactly the same thing, but there must be some underlying reality. So in a theater, the screen is the reality on which everything is playing. So here also is being said that there must be some underlying reality because of which the form exists. You cannot discover this underlying reality using a microscope. You need to discover through someone's help who has the knowledge of the reality, who has understood the truth. So if you're looking through a microscope and trying to understand the reality of that, even whatever the best data you may get, if you ask a child to see through a microscope and see through the molecules, what will it understand? Oh, I'm seeing a lot of little dots here and there. It cannot understand anything. But you ask a professor who looks through the same microscope, he also sees the same thing. But where is he? He's able to infer that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 could be the possibilities. So exactly the same thing that is being talked about in this verse, that the Guru wields the teachings of the Veda, the Guru uses the scriptures as a road to map to lead you along a path of discovery. The teacher makes you discover the truth, absolute reality that he or she has discovered. So this is a very important thing. What does the Guru take us? He takes us to the reality. He says you have to realize the reality. So we are living in a sort of a false bubble, but we have to realize who we really are. How would Guru make you understand the reality? Through the Vedantic teachings that you are that. Tattvamasi. That here means the underlying reality because of which this world of forms exists. The truth of you is the truth of everyone. This is discovered directly. This is not a dogma or doctrine. So some people say, "Oh, I have done so many hours, so many days of parayana and manana and whatever is possible, but I've not realized God." So they think this must not. This is not a dogma. They are trying to say here, this is not a dogma or a doctrine. This is not a matter of belief or faith. This is something you discover directly. This is what is being spoken about in this verse. So your thoughts are known to you because of consciousness. You exist because of consciousness. Suppose you really understand that this consciousness is the same consciousness that is the reality of this universe, then there is no return for you in this world. I'll repeat that statement. Suppose you really understand that this consciousness is the same consciousness that is the reality of this universe, then there is no return for you in this world. There is no rebirth. The concept of rebirth does not sound so bad. However, great ones say that with rebirth, not just you get to be born again and again, but you have to die again and again. Dying once is very difficult. Dying again and again would be extremely grim. The knowledge of the Brahman makes you free from suffering in this life. It also liberates you from rebirth into this vast ocean of suffering, Bhavasagara. You get the knowledge when the Guru instructs you using the teachings of the Veda. Guru imparts knowledge using the Mahabhakya, Tattvamasi, to lead you to discover the truth, which is not remote. So there's no, between you and yourself, there's no, they want to go to Tirupati, you have to go 300 or 400 kilometers to go to Tirupati to see Venkateshwara there. But to see Venkateshwara within, there's absolutely no distance. The truth is here and now available for the discovery. The Guru is the one who makes you recognize the truth. Guru is the one who wakes you up from the illusion of thinking this world is the ultimate reality. The Guru wakes you into this reality. This salutation, Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. This salutation is unto that who imparts the knowledge that you are not separate from the Lord, who is the form of your Guru as well as in the form of Shri Dakshinamurti. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
For Ramanath. We will now have the sharing of Devikalotra Jnana Vichara-padalam by Sri Dr. Kalarani Rangaswamy.
ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலம். Namo Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Bhagavan, we are meditating on Devi Kalotra Jnana Vichara Padalam, very graciously given to us by Ramana in Tam. And in the last satsang he saw the Sakti which is the base for all actions, is actually unseen, cannot be seen. It's like electricity. And that Sakti is above all scriptures. The creations between the Patala and the highest Sakti are getting deluded by worldly objects and worldly happenings. Bhagavan says, he who overcome this delusion, he who can down this delusion with the weapon called Sunya is called, is a jnani. A jnani with the Sunya Bhava sees no difference in the creation. So the delusion falls off very easily with jnani. What is seen depends on the thinking bhava, the thinking method of a person. It's beautifully said, yad bhavam tat bhavati. In the next stanza, Bhagavan says, what should be done for this? Vidayattil asai vidade. When the mind goes behind worldly objects, there will be no satisfaction at all. Mind aspires for higher and higher objects. If he is going in a cycle, the mind says, we must have a motorcycle. When he gets that, he is not satisfied with that. He wants a car. Still, he wants a better car, an Audi, a Benz car. Even after getting the car that he wanted, he is not satisfied. He wants a wife to sit beside him. So he aspires for getting married. Then he wants children. He thinks they should become a doctor, an engineer, and a lawyer, something. But no one thinks the child to become a good human being, a good self. Once, I'll tell you an example. Once Kalidasa was walking through woods for a very long time. When he was out of the wood, he was very thirsty. By that time, a woman, a village woman, was coming with a pot full of water. So Kalidasa stopped her and he asked for her, he asked to pour some water because he was very thirsty. The lady said, no problem, I'll give you water, but you must introduce yourself. Tell me, who are you? Kalidasa don't want to reveal himself and he said, I'm a traveler, ma. Oh, but there are only two travelers in the world, the village woman said. One is the moon and the other is the sun. Okay. Now Kalidasa said, you consider me as a guest and pour me some water. She said, how is that possible? In the world there are only two guests. One is the youth and the other is the wealth. Only these two will come as a guest and go off. Kalidasa got irritated and said, okay ma, I am a person with great patience. She said, even this I cannot accept because in the world, who can be more patient than Mother Earth and the tree? Because how hard we are stamping on Uma Devi, she accepts it with great patience. And the tree, it doesn't mind people throwing stone on it. Instead, it gives fruits to them. So in the world, they are only persons with great patience. Kalidasa now got annoyed. He got very angry. And in a great tense, he said, okay ma, I am an adamant person. I am very adamant. But the lady very calmly said, in the whole world, there are only two things which are adamant. One is the hair and the other one is the nail. Even after cutting many number of times, they grew. They are such an adamant person. Kalidasa got stunned and not knowing what to do, what he did was, he did Ashtanga Namaskaram to that village woman And when he got up, he saw Sakshat Saraswati Devi standing in front of him and not the village woman. And Devi said, be yourself. Don't give extra fittings like this. Even Bhagwan says they are ubadis. விடயத்தில் ஆசை விடாதே குரங்கை விட சலி சித்தத்தை விடாது மடக்கி. In this song, Bhagwan says, the mind which goes behind the worldly objects will not be having any end for desire. He will be having one desire after the other. So, Bhagwan called this mind as a monkey not staying in one place. Mind thinks a person as a very good person, and at a particular moment, and at another moment, he thinks he is not such a good person. And this thinking may also change in due course of time. The mind wants a particular thing at a point of time, and after some years, or even after some time, it switches over to other things. That is why Bhagwan called this mind as more than a monkey which does not stay in one place. Kurangai vida sali sittathai vidadu madaki. What should we do with this mind, which is like a monkey? Bhagwan says, for salvation and realizing the truth, the wavering mind must be diverted from the concentration on worldly objects and directed it inside. And then what to do? Bhagwan says, Sarva Sunya Padatil Tapika. Sarva Sunya Padatil Tapika. By directing the wavering mind, which is like a monkey, inside, and the mind will not go behind worldly things. And when there is nothing to think about it, it will get established in the state of Sunya itself. That state, which is the base for all creations. Only then he will realize Mukti, the truth. அகதால் நிர்வாணம் உற்றிடுவான் நே. ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமண.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the presentation of Ramanacentre by Sri Ujjwal Jagadish.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Yat Purvam Shruti Paradarshadishano Dvaipayano Dhyaruhat Paschat Bodhakala Viduta Timira Shankapah Shankaraha Tatsam Kilavanitalajushaam Acharya Simhasanam Devatvam Prativikshate Naratano Kirvana Senapate Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Bahuhinde Vedadamattundu Dadakanda Vyasaru Nelesidaru Nantara Jnana Kidiyim Tamakaleda Shanka Haripa Shankararu Idiganunda Jagada Janaru Acharya Simhasanava Neralu Devaninnanu Nirikshisuti-haru Nararupa Devasenapatiye Ramananige Loka Guruvige Namana Ramananige Loka Guruvige Namana. Ganapati Muni, in this verse of Ramanacentre is praying Bhagavan, who is none other than Deva Senapati, who is the Girvana Senapati, the commander-in-chief of the celestial army, who is Subramanya, to come down to earth in the human form and adorn that supreme throne of wisdom, of the Acharya of the whole world, Vishwacharya Bhagavanu Ramana. The world is waiting for you to come and adorn that chair which was long time back was adorned by Vyasa Maharshi, the Dvaipayana, who was called as Krishna Dvaipayana, who had classified the Vedas because he had understood the essence of the Vedas completely and who had seen the other shore of the Vedas. And later, this very same throne was aptly adorned by Shankaracharya, who has written bhashyas on all these scriptures, the Vedas and the Upanishads. That Shankaracharya had adorned that seat, and we heard of the story how the Vyasa Maharshi itself comes in the form of a scholar, an old scholar, and tests Shankara by debating him, and he shows to the whole world that he is the apt next higher for that supreme throne of wisdom. And that throne of wisdom is awaiting a Acharya to come and adorn it. And O Ramana, you are the suitable one who can come and adorn it, says Ganapati Muni, and he prays Ramana to come and be seated in that supreme seat of wisdom. We see that in the story of Shankaracharya, when Shankaracharya with his disciples, they are going in the streets of Varanasi, they see an old man who is sitting under a tree, and he is by-hearting some sutras from the Panini grammar book. He is by-hearting it, and he is so aged, he is in that old age that any moment anything may happen, he may have to drop his body. He is in that stage, yet he has this great desire to learn all the sutras in the Panini grammar. And Shankaracharya with his disciples, with compassion, he comes to this old man and he says, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Rakshati, Dunkrum Karane, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. He says, think of that supreme self who is called by different name and different forms, and remember him as Govinda and seek him. That alone will save you when the time of death appears. And these grammar is not going to help you in any ways, said Shankaracharya as the Upadesha out of his compassion to that old man and through him to all of us. And when we get this Upadesha from a guru, do we listen to it? We listen to the Upadesha and we sing of this Upadesha the guru gives, but we are constantly leading our life in acquiring knowledge to how to possess things, to acquire knowledge to do different things, and we want the knowledge of the whole world. And Shankaracharya, the one who is seated on the throne of the wisdom, he is telling, this is not going to help you in any way. Seek that Govinda, seek the self. He tells all of us to do that. But Ramana, when he came to the earth in the human form, he showed it. When you get this Upadesha, you should listen to this Upadesha at that moment and quickly turn back to Govinda. We, in one of our scenes where Ramana, after his enlightenment, he is in that state of supreme bliss. He is in that state of samadhi, sahaja samadhi, and he does not know that it is something great, a supreme state. He thinks that he has got some sweet illness, that he has got a sweet fever, and he is going around doing all the work without any great interest, and he is attending school classes also. And in that supreme state, the teacher does not understand what state the Ramana is in, Venkatraman is in, and he comes to that young Jnani, but he does not know he's a Jnani, and he says, "Oh, Venkatraman, why are you absent-minded? Why are you not paying attention in the class? You write an imposition. You write this chapter from the Bain's grammar. Write it 3 times as the imposition and come back and show it to me tomorrow," says the English teacher. And Ramana comes back home and he starts writing the Bain's grammar 1 time, and he finishes writing it the 2nd time. And then at the end of the 2nd time, he realizes, what is the use of doing the same thing again and again? What is the use of learning this Dungrum Karane, the grammar, that which that old man also was learning? And immediately he turns back to the self, turns back to Govinda, and he's sitting in that supreme state of Samadhi. And his brother Nagaswami comes and he chides Venkatraman and says, "For such a one, why all this?" And at that moment, Ramana hears the call of Arunachala himself, and he says, "For one who understands that there is no use of understanding all these worldly knowledge, the one who is experiencing that the truth of that supreme Upadesha which the great ones have given, why all this?" At that moment, he leaves home for good and reaches the feet of Govinda, reaches the feet of Arunachala. And there he stays, spreading the knowledge of Hridaya Vidya, because Arunachala is the Hridaya. And while talking about Sadhuvam Swami says, Ramana was ever Chinnanchiriya Prayatile Gurudevanin Chintayin Alatile Mannarunachalam Yenbadave Mihaman Vennum Yennam Irindadadi. Ramana was, even from his infancy, he was completely soaked in the remembrance of his Guru. And who is that Guru? Arunachala. He knew that Arunachala was something very, very glorious and wonderful, and that which was shining within him. And he thought it was natural to everyone. That chintane he had, that thought, that throbbing he had from his infancy, and that very thought drew him to the feet of his Guru. And Shankaracharya in Bhajagovindam says, Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhaktah Samsarad Chirad Bhava Muktah Sendriya Manasa Niyama Devam Drashyasi Nija Hridayastvam Devam Drashyasi Nija Hridayastvam Devam Bhajagovindam Bhajagovindam. He says, those who hold on to the feet of the Guru. And Ramana says that Guru which has come in the human form, that Guru who is standing as Arunachala is not different from the very self which shines in every heart. Those who hold on to that feet of the Guru, they are free from the ocean of samsara. And when they control their senses and move their mind towards that Guru who shines within, there they have the vision, the darshana of the Deva who resides in the heart, to teach us this truth. The Shankaracharya who had given this Upadesha to that old man came again as Ramana to adorn the supreme throne of wisdom and teach us this truth, that you can be free from samsara if you hold on to the instructions of the Guru. You hold on to the feet of the Guru, which is nothing other than the self. And when you turn within, when the mind turns back to its own source, there you have the darshana of Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Hi Ahamiti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhati. To teach us this truth, Ramana heard the prayer of great ones like Ganapati Muni and came down. And Ganapati Muni says, this is the right time for you to come and save us, because it is your promise as Gita Acharya that yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. I will appear whenever I feel that the dharma is going down, when the dharma is getting destroyed. I will appear at that time. Oh Ramana, look at the world now. I see that the dharma is coming down. It is failing. So you have to come and uphold the dharma. So this is the right time to come, says Ganapati Muni, and prays in the next verse of Ramana Chatvarimshat. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Yes, he came onto this world, Bhumigilida Manujarannu Kayalu Endu. When he came, he gave us the Upadesha through many works, one of the work being Aksharamanamale, Arunachala Aksharamanamale, which will be presented by Srimati V. Radha and Manas.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. வீடு விட்டி துள வீடு புக்கு பய உன் வீடு கட்டினை அருள் அருணாச்சலா. வெடி விட்டேன் உன் செயல் வெறுத்திடாதும் வெளிவிட்டென்னை காருணாச்சலா. வேதாந்தத்தே வேரற விளங்கும் வேத பொருளருள் அருணாச்சலா. வைதலை வாழ்த்தா வைத்தருள் குடியா வைத்தென்னை விடாதருள் அருணாச்சலா. அம்புவில்லால் இப்போல் அன்புரு உன்னில் என்னை அன்பார் கரைத்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. அருணை என்றென்னை அருள் கண்ணிப்பட்டேன் உன் அருள் வல்லை தப்புமோ அருணாச்சலா. சிந்தித்தருள்பட சிலந்தி போல் கட்டி சிறையிட்டுண்டென்னை அருணாச்சலா. அன்போடு நாமம் கேள் அன்பர்த்தம் அன்பரு கண்பனாயிட அருள் அருணாச்சலா. என் போலும் தீனரை இன்புற காத்து நீ என் நாடும் வாழ்ந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. என்பொரு கண்பர்த்தம் இன் சொற்கொள் செவியும் என் பொன்மொழி கொள அருணாச்சலா. பொறுமயம் பூதர பொன் சொல்லை நன் சொல்ல பொறுத்தருள் இஷ்டம் பின் அருணாச்சலா. மாலை அளித்தருணாச்சல ரமண என் மாலை அணிந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. மாலை அளித்தருணாச்சல ரமண என் மாலை அணிந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ 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 அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி. அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி. நமோ ரமண.
Namo Ramana. We will conclude today's satsang with the Ashtottara Puja. The Ashtottara Puja will happen at Sri Dilip Simha's altar. The chanting will be by Vaibhav ji and Prarthana and Uma and Ashwini Balaji. and this will be concluded with the Arati to Bhagavan.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मि मातरं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणात्मिकाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋचान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्वीषस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्माणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्य तद्दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादाज्ञभावं गतः निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनात्येकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शनसुखमङ्गलमुख सकलजीवहितसम्मुख ब्रह्मसन्धिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानन्दपुष्ट परममहर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿಸಿದೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತುಂಬಿಡು ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತನಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಂದೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಧಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की
Jai.